Now, when leaders fall, it in effect brings up three important matters that we usually don't address with any kind of force. First, situations in which spiritual leaders have fallen reveal in whom we have placed our trust. We love our leaders. We look up to them. We follow their examples. We even defend them when others criticize our leaders. But when things are going great, we just assume that we have placed our trust in Jesus. But it is when things are not going great that shows whether we have really placed our trust in Jesus or in our human leaders. Now for that, I want to go to the story of the Samaritan woman in John 4. It's a familiar story. You know the story, right? So Jesus goes to Samaria and he sees a woman at this well. It was like midday, hot sun. And he asked for water from her, and there ensues a conversation. We know a few things about her already because she was getting water in the mid-afternoon. Women or whoever got the water those days, they would go in the morning, not in the afternoon. So obviously she was avoiding people. And we found out why. Jesus already knew her story. She had 5 husbands, and she was living with 6 men, but she wasn't married. It wasn't something to be proud of, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with her not wanting to see anybody. Maybe she was the talk of the town. Maybe women talk about her. Maybe men was always making moves. Who knows, right? Well, once she realized who Jesus was, is the Messiah, she was in shock. And the first thing she did was she dropped the water jar and she ran back to town. Now, she's the one who wants to avoid people, but this time she actually went into town and started talking to people, and this is what she said, chapter 4, verse 28. Then leaving a water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, verse 28, "Come see a man who told me everything I ever did." That her soul-lit life, I don't even know this guy, but he already knew all the soul-lit things I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? Verse 30, they came out of town and made their way toward him. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. Now, underscore that. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in Jesus because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. So the Samaritans came to Jesus. They urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. So Jesus ended up spending 2 more days, spending time with the Samaritan people. In verse 41, and because of his word, many more became believers. What a wonderful story, right? A transformed life of a very immoral woman with sordid past, and she was transformed. And right away, she witnessed all these people, and all these people in the village of Samaria have become Christians. Wow, what a wonderful, powerful story, right? But then verse 42, it's kind of odd story because the people who became believers, who now understood that Jesus was Messiah, they were all happy. But verse 42, they said to the woman, "We no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Savior of the world." That's very interesting, right? They made the distinction between believing in Jesus because of the woman's testimony, which was what happened initially, but after spending time with Jesus, they make sure the woman knew, we no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man really is the Savior of the world. What does this mean? You see, they're saying that we believe we are placing faith in Jesus, not what you said to us. Well, it was good. It opened the gate. But it is because our faith resides with Jesus Christ. You know what that means? Let's say that woman fell away from faith. Well, it'd be sad, but since the faith of the Samaritan men or the people whom she witnessed were not on her testimony, but on Jesus, they're not going to be walking away from their faith, is what that means. In other words, even if you fall away from faith, woman, that won't affect us. Not too much anyway, because our faith is no longer based on what you said, but what he said. We have placed our trust in Christ, not in a man, or in this case, a woman. You see, times like this is when you really find out, to whom you have placed your trust. Is it on a man or is it on Christ? While I was thinking about this sermon, something I heard many, many years ago just came to my mind. Now, I don't even recall the name exactly. He was a radio psychologist, I think KKLA in Los Angeles, 99.5. And I think his name was John Jollop, but I could be mistaken. I Googled his name, but I couldn't get him. But, it's not like I really like this program, but in the late 80s, there was two scandal that rocked the church. Jimmy Swaggart and Jim Baker. Now, those of you who are old know who they are. They're still alive. So we're rocking the church, because these are big time, people, televangelists, great ministries, and they had fallen, right? So he was counseling people, and he said something that caught my attention. John Jollop said that the man who had led him to the Lord and discipled him, right? A very respectable man, I would imagine. And he committed suicide. Wow. The man who shared the gospel, the man who discipled him, committed suicide, right? So you would expect, the person who was discipled by the guy who committed suicide to maybe walk away. But obviously, this man didn't walk away. I'm sure he was terrifying, jolted in his, core of his being. But he stayed on. And I believe that's because initially he believed through the sharing and the study of the Bible by the man who led him to the Lord. But ultimately, Mr. Jollop became a firm believer of Jesus Christ on account of what Jesus did for us. Therefore, Hebrews 12:2 is what he follows. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. So that's what we can really, really do in times like this, is to fix our eyes on Jesus and consider him who endured such opposition. So in whom have you placed your trust? Men or Christ, who never will fail you? Of course, I did not know Rabbi Zacharias personally, but I do know what happened to him. He gave in to the temptations of, as the title of Richard Foster's book says, money, sex, and power. Jesus too was tempted of the same. As Hebrews 4:15 says, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet was without sin. The temptations that Rabbi Zacharias faced, Jesus too faced them, but he did not give in. Rabbi, unfortunately, did. We place our faith on Jesus alone, not any man. The next question that we need to address is whether any spiritual good was done by the fallen spiritual leader. We will address that in the next installment. Thank you.